Hi, everyone. I get asked a lot of questions, but one quite that comes up quite often is how do I react at funerals? How do I feel when I go into a funeral? Um, how do you feel? Don't answer that. That's all right. I know we all feel weird when we go into a funeral. It's not a place none of us want to be. But when I go into a funeral, I have to prepare myself. I do. I have to pray. I've got to make sure that Jesus is with me. I always got to make sure he's got my guardian, I got my guardian angels there. I ask for guidance. And I pray that when I go in there that I walk with my head held high, and I know he's with me. He's got me. And if I'm not feeling it and I know he doesn't have me, that's when things come at me. So when I go in knowing he's got me and I'm walking strong and strong in faith, that he's there for me, I can see those things that's in that funeral home, and those things see me, but they don't bother me. And I like it that way when I'm having to deal with family deaths or anything. Over the years, I have been to, oh Lord, I couldn't put a number on how many funerals I have gone to since I was a child. From my grandparents to my aunts and uncles to cousins to family friends to childhood friends that were lost in car accidents and different things. I've been to a lot of funerals, a lot of different types. A lot of different types. And a lot of different ages. From infants to, people that were in their 90s. And in different locations. For the most part, I can tolerate a lot of them. If they don't bother me, as long as I go in strong, it doesn't bother me. When I get up north into the big city and get into those little funeral homes or those type of funeral homes, those are the ones that are a little bit more aggravating for me, because you have more wandering souls up there anyway to begin with, that are just walking the streets, or they're just sort of walking the sidewalks or hanging out at the buildings and stuff like that. That's when it gets a little harder on me, because a lot of those for some reason like to hang out in the funeral homes. And I don't know why. But I also know there are certain entities that like to hang out in the funeral homes too. Is you okay, Gigi? Start sneezing or something. There's certain entities that I have noticed that hang out at funeral homes also. It's like they're there to collect what is theirs. And I know that sounds weird in me saying that. But it's a whole reason why I believe in salvation. It's a whole reason why I believe in lost souls and saved souls. It's what I was shown since I was little. I know that there is good and evil out there. And I know where they go. I know what rounds them up, as you can say. I can see it. I don't know what it's called. I'm not good with labels and terms. I'm just not. It's not something that is my forte. I just something I'm not good with. I have one funeral home that I go to that I just cannot stand to go into. I cannot stand to go into it, and it's in my hometown. And the first time I can remember going into it, I was like 7 or 8 years old. And I didn't really, that's the time I didn't really understand prayer. I knew Jesus was with me. I knew I had a guardian angel. And I knew the difference between good things and bad things, but I really didn't understand what exactly that meant because, I was little. And I knew enough that I did not want to tell people what I was seeing anymore because of being teased at in school and different things. So we had gone to a funeral home in my hometown. I'm not for sure. I think it was somebody on my mother's side that had passed away. And we went into this funeral home. And there was this young man that kept telling me that we needed to leave. There were bad people there. Well, I was ignoring him because he was a spirit. I wasn't going to pay attention to this guy. I was 7 or 8 years old, but he kept telling me we needed to leave. He was very clean cut. He had dark hair, real sharp, clean cut, well dressed. Late 60s, something like that, between the ages of 17, 20, something like that. I don't know. I was young. But he had on a plaid, thin striped plaid shirt. And I knew he was killed there. I don't know if he did it to himself or if somebody did it to him. But he kept throwing these pictures at me of things that was in the funeral home. And what I mean by that is not literal pictures, but he kept showing me stuff like Polaroids, snaps of Polaroids, but I kept seeing them in my head. Of course, I was just a child, and I kept seeing these snaps of pictures, and I didn't understand them. So I'm just like trying to back away, so I go to the front door to wait for my family. To get out of the old part of the building, I leave to go to get away from him. Because along with him, there was creatures there, like walking around, and shadows. They weren't people dead people that I could see. These were actual shadows. And I didn't know what they were doing. They were just like in corners and stuff. And now looking back, I know those were lower level demons, and the shadows were actually shadow people. But he was, if it was self-inflicted, I really don't think he did it himself. But anyway, I don't want to open up that can of worms because I don't even know if there's documentation on that or if that's even true. Maybe it's something I need to look into. Never thought about that, but I don't want to open up a can of worms. He kept throwing these pictures at me, and it was pictures of cloaked people, candles, the coffin. It was ritual type things. It was rituals, and then blood everywhere in a certain space. It was a certain space had blood all in it, and it was like a certain space with blood all in it. So I don't know what exactly that means, but I don't like to go into that funeral home. And when I was a little kid, I would intentionally cross the street just so I would not have to walk on the same side of the street or the sidewalk as that went across that funeral home. If I did have to walk across the street on that side of the funeral home, I ran past it because I just did not like the feeling of it. I could not stand it. The energy that come off that was just awful. It made your belly hurt. That is the only funeral home I have ever been into in my life that made me feel that way. And that's it. I've been to others that I felt completely at peace in, you know. There's one in Grant County, Kentucky that I'm peaceful in when I walk into it. And it could be because I have so many family that's been laid out there. I don't know. I don't go in certain areas because I'm not welcome in certain areas. They let me know that. So I just stick to my area where I'm at. But I go in faith. I leave in faith, in prayer. Same. And as long as I do that, I'm fine. Because I can go into a funeral and when I'm visiting, go into a layout or something, you can see, sometimes I see the person standing next to their body. Sometimes they have their hand on their shoulder of their loved one. Sometimes they're standing looking at themselves in the casket. Sometimes they're not there, and when they're not there, it's a completely different feeling. It's like it's at peace. You know where they're at when you walk in, and it's like, okay, this person went to paradise. You can feel it. It's lighter in the room. It just feels different. And then I've been to somewhere I've had family that I love dearly that was screaming at me because they can't get out of a dark place that they're in. And I'm doing my best to get through this funeral home, talk to the family, to leave. Because those are the times that where it is so hard on me mentally and physically that it breaks me down. Because when you're doing that and all you hear is your loved one screaming, I think that's something I'd never wish anybody to hear. And it makes my faith even stronger in knowing where I am going when I die. And that's what makes me I think that's what makes my faith so strong. It really does. Remembering these things is hard on me. I don't talk about this stuff, so I had to pray about this for a while before I made this video. But there are some people out there that are wanting to know what they need to do to get through it. And it's prayer, faith, love, knowing God is with you, knowing Jesus is by your side, knowing that he will never forsake you, that he is always there with you, because he's there for me. Whenever I call upon him, he's there for me. And those things, they back off real quick, and they just watch me. I had recently went into the funeral home that I don't like going into because I had a loved one being laid out there. And I prepared myself before I went in there to show my respects to the family. But when I went in there, my cousin was not there next to his body. And I thought, okay. I laid my hand upon him while he was in the coffin. And I know that is just the body. He's not there. He's in a good place. Even though he had a hard life by his choosing, it's not that anymore. He left all that baggage behind. He got right with God before his last breath. I know it. I felt it. And I heard him say it. And I know he's at peace. He confessed salvation, years ago to us. And I think he knew. He knew what was coming. And even though that he didn't, I really don't know how he passed. I don't care to know. I really don't want to know. But before he took his last breath, I know that he was right with God. That I do know. I asked Daddy what he felt about it. I said, Daddy, what do you feel about this? He said, he's at peace. I felt it. I know he's at peace. I said, yeah, I know he is too. I felt it, and that made my heart happy. It made my heart happy knowing that my cousin is at peace. Some funerals are good for me. Others I'm praying as I'm going in and going out. I prayed as I was going out that funeral just because of the building, but not because of the living that was there, and not because of the family member that was being laid to rest. That's the difference. Until next time, hope this helps somebody. God bless you all.